Hi, my name is Rick Noel. I am a retired software engineer with an interest in photography. And one of the things that I like to do is pull together a dozen photographs that I've taken and put them into a calendar each year to give away as gifts. And one of the frustrations that I had with that process was that it was taking me an inordinate amount of time to pour through all the photographs to choose them for the calendar. And I realized that it boiled down to the fact that I couldn't find any software that would allow me to say something like, show me all the highly rated photographs that I've taken in the fall. And so out of that frustration, Artemis was born. Artemis is a software application that I wrote that helps you find photographs very quickly on your computer. So I'm going to jump into a live demo of Artemis now. And in this first in a multi-part series of Artemis, we're going to cover the search basics in Artemis. So I'm going to share my screen so you'll be able to follow along the demo with me. Okay, so this is the UI of Artemis. You'll notice that in the top left here, there's a menu bar, the contents of which I'll go over in subsequent videos. Below that is the what I call the results panel. And so when you enter a search query, the photos that match the query will appear in this results panel. And for each matching photo, I build a subpanel that contains the thumbnail of the photograph, the file name, the date the photo was taken, some basic exposure information, the location information, and finally a rating if you've given it one. On the right-hand side, we have three subpanels, the first of which is the tag subpanel. So if you select a photograph on the left-hand side in the results panel, I'll show the tags that were stored in that photograph. Tags are essentially the same thing as keywords in a document. And in the tags panel, you can create new tags and assign them to photographs. You can remove tags from photographs and do other tag-related commands, and I'll get to the functionality of the tags panel in a subsequent video. Next is the album subpanel. So Artemis has the concept of an album, photo album. You can create them, you can add photos to them, remove photos from them, view the contents of albums, and so forth. And I'll get to that functionality in a subsequent video as well. Excuse me. And lastly is the maps panel in the bottom right. So if you select a photograph on the left-hand side that contains location information, I'll bring up a map here with a location indicator as to where that photo was taken. You'll notice that these panels are all resizable, so you can grab the borders and dedicate as much or as little space as you like. And there are a couple of glyphs here. If you click on these, one of them expands the panel and the other one collapses it. So for example, if I wanted to collapse the map panel, because each time I change the selection here, this would get updated, that would get distracting in the demo. So I can simply click on this glyph here to collapse it. Okay, so let's get to the basics of searching. You'll go to the search menu here and notice that the first menu item here is guided search. And on Windows, the accelerator is Control-S. So if I choose that menu item, it brings up the guided search criteria dialog box here. And the idea behind this dialog box is to enter the sort of search criteria or filters that you want to specify for your query. The first one is the search terms you want to search on. So let's say, for example, I want to see all the photographs in which I appear. I can simply type my name, Rick, and hit OK. And I'll see all these photographs in which I appear. You see that that's me in this photograph here and me in this one here and so forth. Now you'll notice a few things about the UI. First of all, this is a scrollable panel. Secondly, you'll see that below the menu bar is what I call my status bar. And in there, I show messages about what's going on in software. And in this case, after each search, I'm going to show the number of photos I'm displaying and the number of photos that match the search criteria. And in this case, I by default limited to 500 photographs, similar to a browser that shows you results a page at a time. And excuse me, if you want to see more results, like in this case, there's 53 more results to go, you can click on this icon here, and it will show you the next 500 results, the next page worth. And the icon to the right of it, you can click on that to simply show the rest of the results if you don't want to add them a page at a time. Next, you'll notice that if I hover over particular parts of this subpanel of a photograph, I hover over the file name, for example, what comes up is what's called a tooltip. In the case of a file name, it shows you the full path to the file on disk. And if I hover over the location, you'll see the full description of the location. You'll notice that I click the location, notice I click the location with an ellipsis so that the panels don't get too wide, because I want to construct as many of them in the result set as possible. Next, if you hover over any other part of the panel, including the thumbnail, you'll get a full tooltip that contains all the information on the panel, plus additional information like camera information, lens information if it's there, metering and program modes. And you'll notice the bulleted list at the bottom of tags. And you'll also notice that those tooltips are ephemeral, so after several seconds, they'll dismiss themselves automatically. If you want to get them back, you can simply move the mouse back over and hold it still, and you'll get the thumbnail, you get the tooltip back. If you want to read the contents of that tooltip at your leisure, every panel has a blue information icon here. You can simply click that, and I'll put that same information into a dialog box that you can read at your leisure. Okay, so moving on to talk more about the basics of searching. I'll type Control S, the accelerator, to bring the dialog back up. Excuse me, and you'll notice that I've maintained the search term that I added before. So each time that you bring up the dialog box, I'll remember all the search criteria that you added the previous time, so you can incrementally build and refine your search from invocation to invocation. So let's say, for example, I want to find all the photographs that contain both me and my wife. Her name is Sarah. I can simply type her name as well. Now, you'll notice that there are radio buttons below the terms field, and those control the behavior when more than one search term is provided. The first one says match all search terms. So what that means is that this will include photographs that match all of the search terms that I've provided. So in this case, it'll show only the photographs that contain Rick and Sarah. If I were to choose match any terms, then it would include all photographs that contain either Rick or Sarah in them. So in this case, I want to include the both of us, so I'll leave it as match all terms. And you'll see that that's me and that's my wife, Sarah. So we're both in all of these photographs. We're both here, and so forth. And if I wanted to choose match any terms, then that would match all the photographs that contain either me or my wife. So you'll get ones that contain the both of us, but you'll also get ones like this one here that contain just my wife and not me. Now you may be asking yourself, what attributes of the photographs am I looking at to match these terms that I've provided in the terms field? And the answer to that is in a couple places. First of all, if you hover over the terms field, there's a tooltip that gives you that information. And there's also a corresponding help button here. So if we bring that up, we can read this at our leisure. So this first bulleted list here describes the attributes that I'm trying to match the terms against in the photograph. So the first one is the file name. So if you're like me and you have somewhat descriptive names in the file, you'll be able to search on those descriptive names. Next is the folder name. So if you're in the habit of organizing your files into subfolders, and those subfolders can have descriptive names, you'll be able to match on those names. Next is the location description in the photograph. So if you have a location stored in the photograph, you'll be able to search on that location. And lastly, tags. So if the photographs have tags in them, I will search those tags to match the search terms. So in this case, if we take a look at the first photograph here, the search terms that we asked for were either Rick or Sarah in the photograph. And so if I hover over if I look at the file name, you see Rick or Sarah is not in the file name. And if I hover over it and show the folder path to the file on disk, you'll see that none of the folder names contain Rick or Sarah. And if I hover over the location, you'll see that the location description doesn't contain Rick or Sarah either. But if I hover over the thumbnail to get the full tooltip, you'll see towards the bottom of the tooltip, the bulleted list of tags, and you'll notice towards the end is Sarah Noel. So this photograph was included in the search results because Sarah was in the tags. Okay, so moving on to the basics of search. The next thing that we want to talk about, I'm going to have this match both me and my wife in the photograph, is the rating. So you can include a filter that will include only the photographs that have a particular rating or higher. And you choose the rating by simply clicking on the corresponding star. So I have a 5-star rating system. So let's say I wanted to see all the photographs that contain Rick and Sarah and are rated 3 stars or higher. And if I hit OK, now you'll see all these photographs have a rating of 3 stars or more. They all contain both me and my wife. Next is the shot within dates filter. So you can further filter the result set by including photos that were taken within a certain date range. So for example, let's say I wanted to get this set of photographs here, starting with this one here that was in June of 2008 and ending with this one here in Mosquito Pass on August 16, 2015. So I can restrict it by entering dates here for the start and end date. There are 2 ways that you can enter dates. The first is you can click on this glyph here and get this calendar UI. So if I want to specify June of 2008, I can simply use this UI and get down to 2008 and then go ahead to June and then click on June 1st. Another way you can do it is to simply enter the date textually, and I support several date formats, and there's a tooltip for that here, but we'll click the help button so we can see it more easily. The first is you can specify the month spelled out, followed by the day and then the year. So all these days of January 14, 1999. So you can specify it with the month spelled out. You can specify it as we do here in the United States with the month, day, and year order, or you can specify it as other countries, say in Europe, do, where it's the year, month, day. You can also specify the day, the month spelled out in the year, and finally you can specify year, month, day with colons. So, for example, as we do here, let's say I want to specify the end date here of August 16th of 2015. I can simply type in August 16th, 2015. And if I now hit OK, I should get this photograph and the rest of these up till the Mosquito Pass one. And sure enough, that's what I get. 2 other things to mention about the dates. And one is that, let's say, for example, I only specify a starting date. If I specify just a starting date, then that will include all the photographs that were taken on that starting date into the future. So that starting date and up until today. So in this case, since it's August 15th, I'll get this photograph followed by the rest of the photographs that were taken after that time that are rated 3 stars and have my wife and I. And so you see there's the Mosquito Pass photograph and then the rest of them that were 3 stars with my wife and I. And if I took that date and I put it in the end date and gave no start date, that will match all the photographs that were taken from the beginning of time up until and including the 16th, which will get us the same results we had before. The last one is Mosquito Pass. And finally, you can control the order in which the photographs are displayed in the result set. By default, they're displayed by the date taken in ascending order. So the oldest photograph will be first, and the one that I took most recently will be last. But you can change the order and reverse it by just clicking descending instead of ascending. And to choose some other criteria in which to sort them here, you can sort them by choosing date modified, and that will essentially show you the photographs based on the last time that they were edited. You can sort them by rating. You can sort them by file name, so you can see the names alphabetically. You can sort them by file size, and finally you can choose none, which will just get a random order that is the order in which they were stored in the database. And finally, if you are interested in creating a brand new set of search criteria, then you can remove the existing fields values by clicking clear form. And so you can start your search criteria over again. Now, bear in mind that you don't have to specify any of these fields. So I don't have to specify search terms. If I wanted to, I can say, for example, show me all my 4-star or higher rated photographs. And if I just pick the 4th star and hit OK, I'll get all my 4 or 5-star photographs. So you don't have to type in search terms or any of these search criteria. You can specify any one of them. So for example, I could go down to the search date and I can simply pick a particular date for a start date or end date and just get photographs taken in that date range. And that is the basics of search in Artemis. Hopefully you found this useful. If you have any interest in looking at more of the functionality in Artemis, you can go to my website specified here, and on that page is the link to the remaining videos in this series. So thank you for watching.